All right, we are rolling, and this is, I'm confused because we did an episode 0. I believe it's episode 2. Yes, episode 2. Episode 2 of Unscripted. My name's Tim Lindsay, Aaron McLaughlin on the other side of your screen, and our first guest, we've got Vanessa, and I'm going to say it wrong. I'm not, well, I won't say it hockey style. It's Gagnon. I'm just guessing it's Gagnon. Yeah. It's not Gagnon? Gagnon? No, it's Gagnon? Okay.
Be fancy, it can be.
Perfect.
Yeah, make it as fancy as you want.
Yeah.
So Vanessa, if you remember from the stories that we told, did the original podcast.
She's my original podcast partner in crime.
She's the other woman. So I'm gonna let you two talk. I'll go get a drink. Can I get you ladies a sandwich or anything? I'll leave the room so you can talk about me.
Well, in all honesty, I'm so excited because I haven't seen you in, I mean, like, granted, we're in Zoom land right now, but I haven't seen your face in so long. Which begs the question, why are we not FaceTiming when we talk to each other? So I asked you to come on because I want to talk about sort of the story of podcasting and how you were the reason that I got into podcasting. You roped me in, what led you there. I also kind of wanted to talk about the fact that you're an introvert.
Yeah.
So, the yin to my yang.
Yeah.
And how, like, what appealed to you about podcasting? So that's kind of like, you can riff off that.
Okay. So I don't know what it is about podcasting, but when I found podcast, which granted was probably way longer than other people had found it, I just thought it was so interesting as a medium or whatever. And just so much that can be done with it. And really, you have to literally have no talent.
Wait a minute.
Check.
What are you saying?
I'm putting together a rudimentary list. Hang on. Talentless. Nailed it. Keep going.
Nailed it. Zero talent. Let's go. Yeah.
On it.
And, you know, I'm not wealthy. So
no money.
Specifically at the time.
All right.
We had our phones. Like, that's all that we had.
I rolled it low tech with you.
Else,
yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. Low tech in the basement. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just the fact that you can, there's different host sites that you can use for free up to a certain point and, start a podcast with a topic and like get it out to iTunes and Spotify. I just thought it was great. And then when we actually saw people listen to it.
Yeah, right? You're like, wait, people want to hear us?
Yeah, wait, that's not mom.
Right.
That's totally interesting. Yeah, mom's not in Brazil. What's happening?
I think really out of all the people that were listening, I think it was only like your stepmom and like my mother-in-law. I think those were the only family members that ever listened.
Yeah, our family actually didn't support the first podcast.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
It was all organic following, right?
Yeah, I'm from an Irish Catholic family. That's called love.
Yeah, right, exactly. You're on your own.
We're just showing you what the real world's like.
Yeah, totally. So, go ahead.
We got our first, remember we had the person from Australia and then the random people from Canada that were listening. We're like,
yes,
so exciting. They're not all from New Hampshire.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I want to just rewind, go back to when you called me and you were like, hey, so let's do a podcast. And obviously an invitation to talk is not something that you need to ask me twice, right? Like, you don't have to give that to me more than once. But what prompted you to do that? Like, what was going on for you at the time that you felt like you needed to sit in a basement with me every week and talk? Like, what was, you know what I mean? Like, I know you're interested in podcasting, but what else was going on?
The mental picture you're drawing for me is so awful. It's a base. I picture like you're recording on one cell phone that gets lowered down in a wicker basket.
It was like this. Yep.
Buffalo Bob. It puts the lotion on. It records the podcast.
It was that low tech and people listened.
Yeah.
So. Yep. Go ahead, Vanessa.
People are running above us. Excuse me.
Yeah, totally.
Well, you were no longer my partner in crime in school. You had moved along, and I feel like, we always kind of bounced things that we were always thinking about off of each other, no matter how weird they were or didn't make any sense. And like you had mentioned, I am a more introverted person. So like I didn't think like I could ever really do it by myself, but if I could rope in that like charismatic personality to do it with
Oh,
me,
thank you.
and I got to see her and have conversations with her and knew that we also felt and thought similarly on things that we were discussing, which was really about teachers and just kind of, some of the toxic environments that can happen there, and
Right.
you
When
know,
there's
but
no
it morphed
money
into
and
family stuff and
government.
yeah,
Yeah.
it morphed into like a lot of like different things.
Toxicity at the state level at an underfunded, underappreciated role.
Yeah.
Wow. Hold on. Let me write this
Shocking.
down. Let me write this down. Keep going.
Brand
Keep going.
new. Yeah. Yeah.
And we went through some pretty big like situations too in the midst of our podcast, which we also talked about on our podcast. So that was, I don't know, I think I knew it would work well because I knew that we're good friends and like we could, our personalities balance each other. So I felt like the conversations would be good.
Yeah. Well, but I think like there's so many people out there who probably they're like, oh, I have really interesting conversations. People should follow me around. Right. And like, but what, I think like, I always just think about this. Like, why were we like, yeah, let's just talk, and people definitely want to hear what we have to talk about, but I don't think we actually cared if anybody was listening. We knew we had to have a conversation and tackle some things that we weren't getting to do in a work environment anymore. So yeah, I think you nailed it.
Well,
Yeah.
and honestly, if you think about social media, the platform allows, we joke about, I've got 3,000 friends on Facebook. Well, you've got maybe 2,000 happy accidents, 500 actual friends, and then 500 people you don't like, but you felt rude if you didn't accept their friendship request because you hated them in high school and they haven't improved. Let's be honest. Another
Yeah, they're
show for
Russian
another time.
hackers.
Yeah. So that being said, I think there's a sense of voyeurism too, and especially now where a lot of people are doing their vlog casting. There's a video component like we have going right now. What's interesting is you guys were sitting together, right?
Yes.
And having that personal, and you have a personal relationship, having a personal conversation, and sharing that with that one person, even if it is truly, and I know this sounds altruistic, and it is because it is, that one person that needed to hear that conversation somewhere on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Like that's the end game. If we only have one person's heartstrings to pull on, we win. And if that person tells somebody like them, and we start this commonality of like-minded people that are just getting into the conversation, they're not going to worry about whether you guys were talking about teachers or Apple turnovers. They just vibe with you. And they're happy to have that conversation, and they can do it in real time. I don't know if you guys were going live or not, real time, or it's just there and then get caught up.
We
I don't
recorded
know that
it.
Podbean like had the option, like now they have live.
Yeah, that was our. Yeah.
But they have. Yeah, we were just recording and then put in the title
Post.
and publish.
And it's out there. Yeah, like that was. Yeah. Well, and I think that was the part that it was sort of reaffirming to us that we were on the right track, because we did have people reaching out to us saying like, I listened to that show today and it really resonated with me when you talked about juggling all the things as a mom, or when we talked about the death of your child, or when we talked about my cancer. All of those things really resonated with people, just sort of that human experience and the conversation. And we were just rolling with whatever was going on in our lives. And I think it was super real. And that's why we did it. We may have cried once or twice. There may have been crying. So that leads me though. So you have now ventured out on your own.
Because I really do, like, I love, there's just something about podcasting that I just love it. I don't know why. And I'm like, I don't know if anybody will ever listen to this new podcast that I'm doing, because it's really just me at this point. I'd love to have people be able to connect into it eventually. But like Tim had said, that there might be that one person out there that needs to hear what you're saying, and that that by me sharing my path or my story or my insights might help them not to necessarily struggle so much or be like, okay, I'm not alone in this, or, you know, kind of
Sure.
thing.
Well, so people can find it. Where do they find you? And what is it called?
So it's called Path Towards Faith, and it is now on iTunes and Spotify. So it's on like those two main platforms. I think it might be like in Amazon and Google.
Okay.
But if you do like Path Towards Faith, it's there.
Path Towards Faith. So you decided not to go with Aaron's Not Here?
Yeah.
We stepped away from. Yeah, I was in the
By
marketing meeting
myself.
a few weeks ago. We had a little powwow, and she's like, "I'm juggling between Path Towards Faith or Aaron's Not Here." And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you went with Path Towards Faith. I like
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Very good. So, well, let's talk about the fact, as an introvert, like this is, I've met you, and like I've probably met a lot of them. I didn't find out they were introverted because I just kept talking. So there's that.
Right.
Above and beyond that, as an introvert, what makes you think that this has connected for you? Because usually there's more of an observer gene with the introvert as opposed to the lean in and have the conversation. And for you too, which I suspect might be wildly uncomfortable, you're leaning in and engaging in a conversation, for lack of a better term, with your basement wall, or I don't know, I think there's a dreadmill over your shoulder. Maybe, yeah, you know, so yeah, what keeps you hitting the play button on a weekly basis, or however often you're having these episodes, that you are finding joy in that? What do you suspect is causing that for you?
I think it's more about like there's a sense of obligation that what I'm sharing is important enough to get out there to people, because they are things that I've struggled with in my own faith, and I think that other people need to hear it. And it's a Christian podcast, and I think that a lot of times people, Christians in particular, don't share the struggles that they go through and how they can get to the other side of that, you know, through their faith. I think sometimes they want to paint the picture that everything's like rosy and beautiful, and that's not the case. So for me, being an introvert, because I do not do like the recording Zoom part of it, I feel like I can have that conversation, and if I'm like embarrassed or bright red, which usually happens, then nobody can really see that.
Sure.
And I feel like it's going to reach the people it needs to reach. I don't know if that really answers the question.
No, it did.
Yeah,
well,
it
it's like an evolution, right? So like, because you're a writer as well. So you've been writing for a long time. You write poetry and you write a blog, and then you wrote me into a podcast. You got really comfortable, and now you're on your own. So I see how this goes. So, but like this evolution of finding your voice is part of this process, or am I just guessing? I don't know. You tell me.
It is part of the process, and I prefer to podcast over writing because it just kind of, you can just kind of like the thoughts and stuff kind of flow easier for me. And I don't second guess myself as much because I just push publish. Like I don't go back and agonize over it. But what is interesting, I do like have that inner fight with myself every week to like do the next episode. So it's like, I don't know if you like, you're crazy. Like, is anybody really paying attention to you? You know, so it's just that negative kind of self-talk, and it's like, go do it. It'll be fun.
I think one of the things that people struggle with the most, and Aaron and I, you know, because I tend to be more dorkalicious, I was super concerned about having at least, because we knew we were going to be video based, obviously. But even in a video format, like if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, wherever right now, I feel, and you can't tell me how to feel. That's why I always say that. I feel it's important the video looks good, right? Most importantly, though, if the lowest common denominator is audio, you want to make sure your audio is crisp and clean. So we were fastidious about that, I guess I could say. And then it's funny because I start watching people, and I start to try to become a student of the industry. And the thing I heard over and over and over again is just push play, stupid. Just go do it. Like, it's going to be awful. Somebody's going to lose a limb. Like, we're going to figure this out. But, you know, on the other end of this, you're going to start to connect with people. And if you can get over, which we've built a society that is looking for likes and hearts and thumbs up and all that stuff. So as adults, Don't worry about views. Don't worry about listens. Don't worry about likes. Don't worry about shares. Just keep putting out content. And you're going to find, Erin and I have kept saying to each other for our own sanity is we'll find our tribe,
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, because the people that want to hear what you have to say aren't going to really care about, those little things. I mean, you don't want the audio to be so horrible you can't understand them.
If it's, I feel like he's making a hell of a point. I just can't make it out. Yeah. Like if it's inaudible, you've lost. But at the same point, if you have a glitchy week or bad video one week, it's not that big a deal. And without fail, there was a piece of that was a safety net for us to not necessarily knock the door down like the Kool-Aid kid and just go. We also knew that we were going to get it going, but we certainly said by school time. I think we were saying late July, and then it still took us. I think we hit the last week of July, maybe. I can't really remember now, but we're here. We're here now.
Yeah. Well, and even I think for Vanessa and I, when we started, there was we didn't even know how to upload anything. We were like cutting shows and like, okay, now what? And we'd like sit in the basement and be like, do you want to add music?
Yeah.
Do you want to add, should we add a slow intro and we just, we played with it and had fun and had no expectation that anybody was going to listen. And I think for myself, I can just speak for myself, but that time was so important because, one, we were connecting to people and I felt the community of that with people who were reaching out and saying thanks for having that conversation. It meant a lot to me. And I needed to have those conversations because I was changing careers and totally scared out of my mind. And then in the midst of it was diagnosed with cancer and figuring that out, it's like an entrepreneur and I had 2 kids at home and a house and you were going through your stuff. And I think those conversations were so grounding for me during that time. It was sort of like live therapy every week with your friend.
Yeah.
And it was I healed a lot of my, guilt over leaving my last career in public school and feeling more comfortable being an entrepreneur. And so it was an important time for me. So I thank you for inviting me to do that with you.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because I guess I want to ask both of you. You talked about the fact that you cried together sometimes. Yeah. I cry every day. I'm in here by myself. Yeah. Before we get on this, I'm still checking my makeup. Yeah. Anyway, waterproof mascara, MAC makeup, love it. Joking. So that being said, if that was therapeutic for you, and it's got to be cathartic because Erin referenced the loss that you suffered. How much of that was, a catharsis for you, and at the same time, maybe an outstretched hand that maybe I can connect with a person who's suffered the same way I have, and I there's got to be some sort of a connection between that and what you guys were doing together by making your role changes, the loss you suffered, Vanessa, and now what you've moved into with the path toward faith. How does that tie together? And for you, what has been the gift you weren't expecting in all of this?
Well, obviously with that kind of loss, it's pretty traumatic. It was he was 26. It was a sudden death due to a drug overdose, which many families out there, unfortunately, have experienced. Mm-hmm. And it kind of sent my entire family into a whirlwind. And, so he had passed away in October, and I think we started our podcast in was it in January? Yeah.
It was within a short amount of time after that. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was a way to kind of reconnect to this person that I know was such a supportive person and had been before she had left, and just to kind of get out of my head and get out of my house.
Yeah.
But,
now we're getting somewhere. This is so you can go over to Erin's crappy basement. Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
interesting. Who has the nicer, crappy, scary basement? Let's cut it there. Yeah.
But just to kind of go there, because it's so all consuming as a family that you just got to find a way out of that. And, in teaching, I mean, it keeps you busy and it keeps you preoccupied, but also it was a constant reminder because like the phone calls happened there. I had to pick up his ashes at the funeral home in Manchester. It was just, so to just kind of break away from that for a little while was a good thing.
Well, and in your role,
it set me on a huge, like even bigger journey over that year. So.
Well, and I have to imagine in your role too as teachers, especially going through that with your son, you're every day in a room with other people's children, pouring into them to help them be the best version of them, and you've just lost your very own. So that had to be challenging. I mean, a little side off of that too. My wife lost her brother, similar circumstances, when he was 31. And to watch my in-laws go through what I trust you're going through it's insufferable. Like, and people just, you can't wrap your arm. You lose all these other people in your life, but it's something that in the order of things isn't supposed to happen. Right. So, and you're in a room full of other people's children every day. Must have been a true challenge for sure.
Well, and they had no idea, like the time that I was out and stuff like that. Like, I privately had told parents, there was a death in my family. I didn't go into detail. I said that the kids need to know that I was sick. Like, I don't, because they will ask me. They were, 9.
Yeah.
What's the problem? Why weren't you here? So it's easier for me to say I was sick. Field the question that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a lot. And then, my youngest daughter, just from that, like they were the closest together. And so like she spiraled into like this whole suicide thing. And like now you're fighting for another child's life.
Yeah.
And so it was a tough year.
It was a tough year. And yet, I think we had this little space of a couple of hours a week where we were able to just be together and create something and then plan for it. And I know I just felt privileged to be a part of it with you and that conversation. So,
and we got to like talk about like stuff that really a lot of times had nothing to do with that.
Absolutely.
But, like,
yeah.
Help you like process too, like the trauma of teaching.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What's it like to be a public school teacher in an inner city environment with no resources and, kids who are living in trauma? And like, these are the things that we talked about. And then also like as teachers, you can't turn it off. Like you can't have a bad day. You have to, there's no shutting the door and just like falling apart. You always have to be put together when you're in a classroom. And I feel for all these teachers who are going back today and this week in this new environment because they don't know what's coming. They don't know what's going on. And they want to put their best foot forward for these kids. But, we, as teachers, you have to maintain your composure all the time. And it's not easy sometimes.
Yeah,
No,
Vanessa, are you totally out of the role now?
Huh?
Are you completely out of the role now?
No, she's
No, I still teach.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you had stepped away. Oh, wow, I love that. Let's peel this onion. I am dying. Well, I guess we if we want to protect, we don't want to talk about people that we don't want to talk about, like when it comes to the school systems and stuff. Because I talk to Erin and she's talking to you and other teachers. I would love to know, obviously, Erin's thoughts I get, but they're ever changing and there's lots of them. It's like opening a bag of Skittles, right? Yeah. So I'd love to know what Erin feels like today about what's going on. But you, as a teacher that I have not had the chance to pick your brain, and let me preface the rest of this conversation, at least for myself. There's got to be no judgment in how people feel about this. And I think there are not enough buckets of grace to go around right now for the educational community, for parents who need their kids to go back to school because otherwise they can't be home. Like there's no right answer. I'm just intrigued on what you are dealing with right now at your school system, and what the plan is, and what that even looks like. And if you're comfortable to share, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I did teach for 18 years in Manchester. That's
Mhm.
where we were.
Yep.
And then last year I did move to teach in the town that I live in, which is it's just a K-8 school.
Okay.
Excuse me. Um, and I teach 6th grade. So that was like a
Such
whole new
fun.
thing too.
Such fun.
Yes. So our plan, if this gives you any indication, was just approved for the school board last night. Yeah. And then we went back today as teachers. So, it's been a little bit crazy, but not surprising.
So the NFL came out with their plan. The players union went back today and decided, actually, we'd like to see some changes. Interesting. So
Yeah.
is it still in negotiations, or?
So no, so this plan was like, it's been in negotiations where like the union and the administration, and in the midst of it, our superintendent left. So we had a new superintendent kind of have to come in, but luckily he was in the joint high school that our town shares. So he has at least some clue, how to kind of approach this plan.
Right.
Well, just a sidebar, the average longevity in a superintendent role in the United States is 2.5 years. So just so you know, that's the average lifespan of a superintendent for a school district. So
it's like 8 seconds on a bull. If you get to the 9th second, you're a hero.
It's just enough time to mess stuff up, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a large, I think it's like 33% of our population of students and families that said we are only going remote. We are not sending our children back into the school. And then a chunk outside of that are also decided to homeschool. But the rest of them have decided that they wanted in-person learning. So for like K-5, they'll be in 5 days a week, but they're only like classes of like 9 to 12 kids. So they're all socially distanced. They have to wear masks all day, so there's all of those kind of health protocols. And then up in the middle school, because there's a significantly larger group of kids, they're like doing a cohort model. And so there's remote teaching happening at each one of the grades.
Yeah.
But then there's also like cohort A will be there Monday and Thursday, cohort B, Tuesday and Friday, and then Wednesday is a remote for all middle school. And then that'll be like, we are with them for like half the day on Wednesday, and then the second half of the day is an early release so that teacher teams can plan, because the amount of planning that you have to do to make sure that your kids that are in the building and your kids that are remote only are all getting the same curriculum and instruction and expectations and assessments. So that just adds to the planning that you would normally do.
Every one of my friends
has thought, like, at least in giving us that half day, like, to me, that's a gift that I don't know that I've gotten somewhere else.
I have so many friends where I grew up in Chelmsford that went to college, and they did it for, early childhood education or whatever the case may be. And as I've run into them over the years, they all inevitably went to get their master's. That seems like a thing you have to do when you're a teacher. God bless you all.
We haven't. Well, that's how you get a pay raise.
Yes,
it's the only way you get. It's time in and education. It's the only way.
And those 6 years are worth the $4 you got. Damn it.
Well, that's the thing. Like the $60,000 master's degree, and you earn $2,000 a year more. Like, makes a lot of sense.
Well, I'm proposing that one of the I guess the pathways to that could be an entire curriculum, which is just pandemic curriculum planning or something. Like, this is going to be a thing, and Erin knows
forever.
What's that?
I think public school is changed forever.
Yeah.
Well, I think a blessing is there's not a single school on the planet that can now say they don't have a blizzard bag program. Like, everybody's there's no more snow days. We've determined that, right? Everybody knows how to figure it out from home. Yeah, above and beyond that. And Erin's going to hate that I say this, and I don't mean it to be negative. I just think once we get through COVID-19, COVID-38, whatever's next, I think there's just going to be the next thing. I think we're going to continue to see these weird strains because stuff. I don't know.
I
So
hope you're wrong,
I
but
truly do.
fear
I
you're
truly
right.
do. I also have said to my kids completely serious. I said, I think having a mask in your hip pocket is going to be the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, you know? Um, yeah,
Yeah, I
that
don't
be,
think we're going
go
to
ahead.
wake up tomorrow and have like the headline in the news like the pandemic's over, return to the way it was before March 12th, zoop, back to March 12th, 2020.
Mm,
Like I don't,
that's
and I
not
do
coming.
think there are people who are like holding out for that. And
Yeah.
I feel a little worried for them because I don't think that's going to happen. And, so we got to just figure out how to proceed. And like you said, Vanessa, like I think public school is forever changed. Our kids are going to grow up and tell their kids, when we were kids,
Yeah.
we had snow days.
Yeah. Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's not going to be a thing anymore,
We
right?
used
Like,
to walk
and
to
they're
school without a
yes,
mask and a
it's the
helmet. Like, yeah, yeah.
it's the new like grandpa and grandma story. I walked 2 miles
The new
uphill.
the new private
Yeah,
school uniform is a hazmat suit with a
yeah,
beekeeper's hat, you know? Yeah.
yeah.
Unbelievable. So my kids actually, we're in Stratford. My kids are at Co Brown, and Co Brown is
That's where I went.
in the midst. Oh, you went to Cow Barn Academy. I love it, love it. Yes.
94
I'm,
graduated.
yeah. So we our youngest is a freshman. He had orientation on the 14th. And then they didn't do it. They didn't do a cohort style, but they've gone back insofar as that first week was A to K, L to Z every other day. And then last Friday, the whole campus went back. And now, as of Monday, everybody's back. They did a great job with all the directional arrows. We were there for an IEP meeting. Our youngest is autistic. And I feel really good about what they're doing. Every desk has the plexiglass sneeze shields, the whole 9 yards. That being said, I don't think it's a Sununu decision for us here in New Hampshire or even the SAU decision. I think it's going to be when the first kid test positive, and more so, and this is where I become truly fascinated with some people's perspective on this, and to each his own. That being said, it's all well and good to say the kids are younger, they're going to be okay. Actually, my kid, because he is also diabetic, our youngest, doesn't have a higher probability of contracting COVID-19. It's what he'll deal with after the fact. So we decided to send him to school because our oldest was going to go, and we need him to get engaged with his teachers because of who he is. And I think if he's there for a good solid 28 minutes, because I truly think that it might only be a good solid 28 minutes, he'll at least have developed those relationships, that he has this interpersonal connection, that when he does get home, he feels a commitment to them. Because everyone as a parent knows our kids aren't worried about us. They're worried about their teachers and their peers, how they'll look in front of their peers. So if we can have that, that would be a benefit. Back to that first kid getting sick, and moreover, the teachers. What's the average age of a teacher in the state of New Hampshire or nationwide? Average age is in that danger zone, and that's what I think people are failing to believe. Like, the teachers aren't invincible, and nobody is. But people are like, well, the kid's got to go back. There needs to be normalcy. I appreciate all that. I think when school systems start to have maybe 1 or 2 cases, people are going to start to pull their kids. Co Brown gave you the option of doing hybrid, full home, full school. There were 3 different options, and we just knew that Aiden wanted to go back, and there's just a piece of me that thinks it won't be long. So, I don't want my kids to be in an unhealthy environment. I also want them to be kids and see their
Well, and I
friends
think
and
too,
go to
like,
school.
people
And
needing to realize, like, schools are disgusting.
yeah,
mean,
we didn't need COVID. They were disgusting last year. Yeah,
Because
right around
they have
October.
children in them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
our custodians work very hard, but
Yeah.
they're just not the cleanest places. I mean, you can clean all the desks, come back the next morning, and there's film on them, not because somebody was there, but because it's just gross,
Yeah. Because because gross.
Right.
Well, you're talking about old buildings, old air filtration systems. I mean, our public schools are like some of the oldest buildings in any community. Your oldest buildings are generally your schools. They have really old air handlers. They have like one janitor who, and any budget cuts, they cut back on that. I mean, I remember when we were in Manchester years ago, we had like 3 janitors. And then one year they decided we're not going to budget for that anymore. They cut
Oh,
us down to 1 and they were, or 2. And it was just no, I think it was 1 janitor during the day and then no night cleaning crew anymore. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And everybody was so sick. Like, the strep throat was rampant, the flu was rampant, and they like within a month they were like, "Yep, we need the cleaning crew back."
back to 6 janitors all of a sudden. Yeah. Well, that's just it. You look at when they go back in September. Invariably, when we get back from any holiday break, there seems to be a little spike just because they're back together again, and especially
Yeah.
during the winter when the windows are closed and there's less outside time. So Co-Brown has mixed in a lot of outdoor activities, and in the high school level, there's never technically a recess, but they're going to have outdoor breaks. And if your student has a study period at the top or the bottom of their schedule, they can come in late or leave early.
Yep.
So they're doing their best. I'll say my wife and I are impressed with what Co-Brown's put together for a schedule. I just think they might be an anomaly. I think there's a lot of schools that just like open the doors, get them in here. We'll see what happens. It's like Vegas, like just, we'll see if we land on black or red and we'll take it from there. I don't know. Again, there's no right answer. So what you guys are set to go back when?
So all staff is there now.
Okay.
Kids are starting the 14th at this point.
Oh, okay.
Because in the midst of this too, the sprinkler system pump that was put in 1974 doesn't work anymore. So that's for the whole fire system, sprinkler system throughout the building. So that has to be replaced, and that's not cheap and not on our schedule. So I think it pushed, because we were supposed to have kids back the 8th, but I think it's kind of pushed it back because they have to.
Sure.
Kids can't
Repairs.
do the building without the sprinkler system. So.
Right. Yeah, there are some safety regulations.
Yeah. Well, and Boston pushed back to the 21st, right? And I've got friends down, and I grew up in Massachusetts. I've got friends down in Massachusetts, and they're like, the 21st of September feels like they pushed it out just enough that they don't have to make a decision. Like the universe might make it for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, like I know people listen to sports radio on the way home, and people are like calling EEI and they're screaming like Charlie Baker and Marty, and all, they're yelling about the mayor and the governor. I can't imagine the pressure on those gentlemen and any, God bless anybody in charge of an SAU that's going to bed every night with all these kids, right? What they used to say with boats, all the souls on board when they have the head count on an airplane, like all these souls on board. That's a daunting task to be like, well, I hope we get this right, because I don't necessarily think there's a right answer. It's just going to be people doing the best they can.
Well, because I think like when a community faces either a child or a teacher, unfortunately passing, then it's like that ripple effect of that will be significant,
Yeah.
And I mean, odds are it's going to happen somewhere.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that there was that girl that posted the pictures of the crowded hallways in Georgia with no masks, and she was suspended. I don't know where it went from there. And then somebody else from the same high school recorded audio of the principal yelling at the kids saying there'll be consequences if you post any more pictures or video online. And then that weekend, 10 or 12 cases popped up out of that high school, and they took the Monday off to clean it real good. And it's just like, but Vanessa, to your point, Gross is going to come back on Tuesday and start wiping all the surfaces again. And Gross is all of us. Like, can you imagine walking around any workplace? Like, I'm in the Portsmouth office of our company, and I'm sure there's a couple thousand levels of disgusting here until the cleaning crew comes. And I also know the cleaning crew is probably not coming through in hazmat suits and hot hosing the whole building either. It's just little things. Like when I head down the stairs tonight, I'm going to stay pretty nimble at 48. I'll stay center stairs with my mask on. Like, don't touch the side. Like a bad game of Operation. Don't touch the sides,
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I get outside. Well, I'm not going to open the front door with my nose or my elbow. I mean, I sort of can, but like then you're just touching things. When I go get gas, I'm not putting on rubber gloves. I'm hitting the
Just
ATM
go wash
machine.
your hands, Timmy.
I'm going to get a bottle of no disgust on my belt loop.
Well, and two, I think like, sometimes you hear like, oh, teachers can just open their windows and open their doors to the outside. Well, first of all, we are trained to respond to school shooters.
Right.
So no, you can't have just all the doors to the building open.
Right.
Right.
Second of all, a lot of teachers are in closets.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that used to be storage closets or custodian closets. Like that's their office
That's a
or their
thing.
room now. Aaron and I, we were both in closets that backed up against the girls' and the boys' bathroom.
Oh, that sounds great.
So you got like great smells and sounds happening.
Smells
All
and
day.
sounds.
Oh, your office was way worse than mine, actually.
Well,
Like-
because I had the janitor
Yeah.
closet like on the other side of my wall and the sink leaked and like
Yeah.
I
Oh,
had a permanent stain on my floor that was actually like seal coated over.
I feel like you have a permanent stain on your soul from that. I can't even imagine.
Well, do you know what's crazy?
I went to see Mrs. Gagnon, and all I could smell was bleach.
Bathroom.
I
Nobody-
can't see, and I think I'm going to the wrong college now. But it was a great week. Yeah.
But that's real. I mean, we have all these sort of specialty teachers in closets or
Yeah.
basements. For
With
years,
no
I
air
thought
filtration.
I was in the stairwell until the fire marshal came through and was like, "Not allowed."
The person under the stairs. Thank God you got that master's degree, though. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. The multiple master's degrees. Yeah, they
Oh.
totally were valued. Yeah.
Amazing. Hey,
Yeah.
Vanessa, what do you want people when they tune in and check out Path Towards Faith? What is the common thread through, and I know that you've just relaunched and this is a new venture for you. What would I suspect as a listener when I push play every week, or how often do you broadcast?
So yeah, I try to do it once a week. So
Okay.
I think I would be doing episode 4 when I do
Oh.
it.
She's
Yeah.
one ahead of us.
Love it. Love it.
But actually, tonight we're tied.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because
Okay.
I have not done it yet.
Oh, look at that. We're gonna cut the pot. I'm gonna be like Galooly. I'm gonna sweep the leg. Why? She couldn't skate. So what do you trust the common thread is? Like if I'm listening, I know when I tune in for the episode, I'm getting a dash of this, a sprinkle of that. Who are you looking for? And again, finding your tribe it's an elusive statement, but who are you looking for? Who are you looking to connect with?
So, I mean, like I had said earlier, it is a Christian podcast.
Sure.
So obviously, if that's not your thing, you probably won't be interested. But I'm just being honest, but I mean, I do a prayer during it.
Mhm.
I do share like scripture passages that connect to what I've talked about. And I try to share kind of different things that I've gone through.
Yep.
And I share my testimony, which is probably the longest episode that I had. And there's a lot in there that I don't expand on, but other episodes will kind of come
Sure.
off of that eventually. So, yeah, it is just to try to support people in their faith and, keep them connected.
Yeah,
Keep them
what
connected.
I like about that too is
Not
yeah,
perfect.
we
Life's not perfect.
yeah, we lost the opportunity to physically go to church and our parish. So I was going to joke earlier when you said it's a Christian podcast. I'm Catholic. So yes, it's under the same umbrella, but like all my friends who are Christians can quote the Bible. I'm like, we just really specialize in guilt. Like that's the
And
merit badge we
procedure.
earn all the time. And I'll take it next level and I'll say I'm Irish Catholic, and people are like, what's the difference? Like, oh, swing by for Christmas. I'll show you what the difference is. Anyway, so yeah, insofar as having that opportunity that you're connecting with people that might not be getting to their place of faith right now, only for the fact that like right now at our parish, and they've done a great job. I love just like almost like the blizzard bag thing with school. Like I'm hoping that Father Andrew, phenomenal priest, is realizing you've got to keep this cable network on, because you've got
Yeah.
people that are connecting, and then when he throws out, for tithing, and we all, we get our envelopes, we're good Catholics, and I bring it and we drop it in the basket at mass and all this stuff. My wife goes on and she does the drop down. She goes, oh, we can donate to this and that. Like she found all these other things she loved. I'm like, okay, we need money to have the electricity to watch mass next week. So slow your roll. But I thought that was really cool. But right now, if you want to actually physically go to mass, it's almost like you're getting online to book your table at a restaurant because they need to know who's going to be there. You're going to be spaced out. And I will pull my Emily Dickinson right now. I can love Jesus from anywhere. I don't need to be in that building. And honestly, I don't know if I want to go sit in mass with my family, with our son, that we don't want to necessarily always be putting in just one more thing when we can do it from home, which would beg the question, will you let him go to school? Well, he sort of has to be there at this point, and I don't feel like he has to, but we've chosen to stay on 9:00 mass on TV. And that's what we've been doing. So for you, you're turning into that virtual conversation that somebody that's going to their place of faith might have caught on the way to the car or downstairs getting coffee and donuts, and to just open that door for somebody to have that faith conversation, or any conversation with that, for that matter, that has the commonality of a belief system, faith, trust in God, is an opportunity that I think you'll find a massive tribe, quite honestly. As long as you stick to it, make it your own, and keep it your own, and don't let people derail you.
Yeah.
And say, you know what you should do?
Another kind of like big piece is for like newer believers or believers that kind of, have fallen away or whatever. Just, that there's certain things that you should be doing every day as a believer to kind of keep your faith going and getting stronger and just, growing in that. And, I go into it in the episodes, but just, that when you're not doing the things that you need to do to kind of nurture that part of you, then other things kind of fall apart.
Yeah. Well, you talked about too, like faith can get messy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people's social media, they show the pretty holidays when their wife or husband took them out to dinner. Is your faith strong enough? And no judgment, because maybe not everybody feels this way. I do. Is your faith with whomever you call the prime mover, right? I always joke to make everybody happy. Is it God? Is it Jesus? Is it L. Ron Hubbard? Is it Oprah? Whatever you feel that is your faith in that strong enough that you're willing to fight for it and with it sometimes, right? Like we tend to be like, oh God, get me out of this, and I'll be a great Catholic for the rest of my life. There's a lot of that. There's also we're always very thankful. And you'll see people win awards and stuff, and they thank God first. And I'm not questioning their faith, but they thank God first in a very public space, as opposed to, when have you been sitting, and I trust with the loss you've suffered, you probably sat on the edge of your bed a couple of times and said, are you serious? Like you had some pretty stern conversations with your Lord at some point, right? Mm-hmm. And it can be messy, and that's tantamount to any relationship. It's going to get like that, right? Yeah. If you feel that invested and you feel that connected, and you feel that it is a two-way street of conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Erin, do you have a follow-up for her? We got a quiz?
No, I think you hit all the high points, and I just always love talking with you.
I know.
So when do you hit the treadmill?
That's another.
I mean, it's a co-star. It's right over your shoulder. I have to ask.
That's another show, and don't look over there.
That's another show.
Nothing to see.
Nothing to see here. I know. I went for a walk today with the girls this morning before I came to work, and it was the first time I had walked in a few weeks. I think the like inertia of COVID had sort of settled in. I haven't, I'm on my new 66-day challenge of getting up at 5:00. And it's so silly, but just that switch for me opens the space, and I'm like, oh, well, I got nothing to do. Let's go for a walk. But if I don't get up at 5, it doesn't happen. So
she'll be up at 6:15 tomorrow, sharp.
6:15. Yep.
Awesome. Hey, so again, it's Path Towards Faith, and it's found on all the places where you listen to all the things. Vanessa Gagnon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
Vanessa.
Me.
And we'll make sure we put it in the show notes so people can track you down. We talked about teaching. We talked about loss. We talked about faith. It's like a full week at school, right? Yes.
Yes.
All the things. Vanessa, thanks for joining us. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.